Is brought to you this week by Shaw's and Star Market, perfecting the art of fresh, by findmassmoney.gov, and by John Sewer, the name to know when your drains don't flow. And he joins us for the first time in the new year on the Harbor One Hotline. Did you guys talk? Hi, Mike. Good morning. Did you guys talk while I was gone? Did you talk to Mike about the extraordinary night back at the Boston Garden?
Not when it was Wiggy and the Woman, and then I was off the following Thursday.
That was so awesome. As somebody who grew up with my grandfather, Ed Hill, as a season ticket holder and used to go, Mike, and watch that group of guys play hockey, it was awesome to see you all out there together again.
Yeah, I'm glad you changed the subject from the weather, because I was about to go back to bed when I heard that Curtis and Reiner segment. It was only Courtney that woke me up. I loved it, Courtney.
That's what I'm here to do, Mike.
Exactly. Nice. Yeah, it was a great night. I mean, I hadn't seen some of these guys in like 40 years, and it was really a neat night. And the Bruins have done a great job in setting up all the centennial celebrations. It's been fun. I've been to a couple of them, and to see John Winsick reenact his invitation to the bench to come out and fight was fabulous.
Where do you rank him? I have him very close to the top all time. No disrespect to LB, but when it comes to Bruins tough guys, very close to the top. And Jay Miller too. I get Jay Miller.
Jay Miller too, and Jonathan was there. I mean, you couldn't hurt. Somehow you couldn't. You could punch those guys in the head, and I don't know how they didn't feel it. I mean, they just didn't. They didn't react. It didn't seem to faze them in the least. And Wensick was, he was as tough as they come. And I think I may have mentioned this story before, but he was in Providence playing in the minor leagues, and he got in a fight and he got a guy down. And he was telling me this later, and he said, I had my finger behind his eyeball and I could feel the cords, and I just didn't know whether I should pull it all the way out.
Oh, wow.
That's tough.
That's tough.
Somebody's in the wrong profession. They should be like a leg breaker for the mob or something.
That's old time hockey right there.
Oh no, it was he was very serious about it. I just couldn't believe what I was listening to. But when he did that thing with inviting the guys from Minnesota to fight him, the entire bench, somehow I wound up like 10 feet away, and I shake my head as to think, why the hell would I be 10 feet away from this maniac?
Mike, it's interesting, when you talk about this, being in the world of being teammates with, great players, coaching guys like, Ray Bork, and now obviously seeing the new game. And it's got to be interesting. What's it feel like to be part of, this world of hockey and the generations of greatness, and to be able to see what the game has become, but also kind of maybe seeing those type of players no longer existing in today's NHL? Is it a good thing? Do you miss those days as somebody who's been a part of this game for a number of years?
There's so many reasons to miss it. I mean, there were so many characters and so many things that they could do differently that were outrageous that now would be considered, sinful. And but the reason for the changes are understandable. I mean, people with concussions and all that stuff, if the fighting stuff had to be addressed and sort of limited. Helmets are in vogue. Probably going to see neck guards pretty soon. And I get it. People change because information becomes available and you see trends and you make those changes. But I can tell you that, that I felt that our era and the era before us, when the Bruins won a couple of cups, was as swashbuckling as you could hope for. And it was fun to be a part of it. And we had so many laughs and so many days when you wanted to go to the rink and just be there with a bunch of guys that you knew you're going to have some fun with. It's not the same. Social media has made it different. The scrutiny that these guys are under, the sort of, I don't know, guess just the rules have changed a little bit. And I don't think it's as easy to have as much fun as we did. And probably it's a little bit safer and a little bit smoother, but I liked it back then. And it was great to see the guys a guy like Al Secord, who was, talk about tough guys, was as tough as they come, and later became an airline pilot. I couldn't believe that he was actually flying planes, having known him for so long as a tough left winger. But it's a different era, different feel. I get it, but I'm glad I worked in my era and not now.
So Winter Classic over, All-Star game approaching, Bruins in
Winter Classic. Was that a Winter Classic or was it Winter Forgettable?
Well,
Seattle? Yikes.
I love that game, so I it's never bad to me. It really is.
See, I think it loses its element when it's not like, because I was kind of like Mike, when it's not like original 6 type of teams in locations where you go, oh,
You mean like it has to be at Fenway or it has to be
like
in Chicago
or
or
someplace like in Montreal. I don't know, like some of those unique places with some of the unique.
Yeah, they had it
teams.
in Lake Tahoe, right? And the one in Lake Tahoe was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, I get it. They got to satisfy all the owners in the league and make everybody happy. And so Seattle and Vegas, which are hardly hockey heavens, they had to be participants.
But at this point, midpoint, Bruins in first place. What's your
take on that? I mean, are you kidding? I mean, did anybody see this coming? Nobody saw this coming. I mean, who are these guys? I mean, it's like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You know, they chase everybody down. I mean, this is a group that it starts with the goaltenders. Obviously, they've been tremendous. Pasternak has done what he has to do. Coyle and Zaka have stepped up. And anybody that they brought in, Van Riemsdyk or Geeky or you name it, they've all been better than what they were expected to be. You have to tip your cap to these guys. First place overall in the National Hockey League. I mean, they're every one of their, except for goals for, which is a little bit of a problem. Their power play is good. Their penalty killing is good. Their goals against is good. They have a little trouble scoring goals, but they're scoring enough to win games. And they work hard every single night. And that's the kind of team Boston has come to expect from the Bruins, and they've been getting it for decades now. For most of the years from 1970, well, really when Harry Sinden took over till today. There's a tradition that you have to show up and you have to work hard, and these guys have bought into that. And credit to them, to Neely, to Sweeney, to Montgomery. I mean, they're not as fun to watch as they used to be last year, but damn it, they win.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you talk about the lack of goal scoring at times, and I think that's even going to come. They've started to score a little bit more now, but that'll even find its level, when Kevin Shattenkirk isn't scoring 3 times in 2 games or something. And so I'm curious now that we've kind of seen this team through 36 games, do you have a changed level of expectation for them when it comes to the playoffs? Like last year it was Stanley Cup or bust, and they completely swung and missed. This year, going into the season, I was just happy with get to the playoffs, maybe win a round, and I was good. Do we change our expectations now with how good they've played this year?
You have to change your expectations, or at least your hopes for this team, because they've been so good. The question will be, can they score enough goals, and can they be tough enough? I mean, Florida punched them out in the first round last year. Can they punch back? We won't find that out until the games get seriously meaningful in April. And I mean, they've shown some ability with guys like Frederick to punch back, but it's I don't know if there's enough of that. It's going to be an interesting point to ponder as we enter the playoffs. But it's other than goal scoring, there's not much that this team hasn't done right.
Mike, you have been critical of Montgomery in the past, though, and you bring up Van Riemsdyk. That new line pairing with Heinen, Frederick, and him. Montgomery's done a good job moving things around on this team to make it work better. Would you give him credit for that?
Yeah, I do. I think we've talked about it before. You get a pretty good line there, right? Well, just because they have a bad period doesn't mean you have to change it up again. I get it. Once you change a line, everything sort of is in a jumble, and it gets everybody's attention, and that's not a bad thing. But when you get a line like that that's producing, if they have a tough game, show enough faith in them to let it go. And now they've got, Marchand playing, some pretty good hockey with Coyle and DeBrusque, and so if they have a bad game, then let it go and let it run with it, and maybe address it. But I don't think you have to shuffle the deck every time you have a bad period. But we'll give him credit; he's got to the point where now they have. They've got a couple of combinations that are working really well, and have to give him credit. Since he's been here, all he's done is win. except in the games that really are meaningful, and that's something he's going to have to address in April.
Mike, you've been a player and a coach in this league, and you talk about how good the Bruins are playing. But is there that like space in their head that might be being rented out and thinking like, okay, we played great last year in the regular season, and then we get to the playoffs and we kind of, pee down our leg? Is that like something that players and coaches think about when they have like success in the regular season again, and now expectations are starting to change in a positive direction?
I don't think they're going to worry about that. First of all, they got a lot of new faces that weren't here last year, and don't have to deal with the memories of a difficult loss. And you've got a fresh start when you start the playoffs, and I think these guys will be. I don't think they'll have that hanging over their head. No. The other thing that I think they have to address is, can they be tough enough, physical enough? Can they respond to physical play? And those guys will answer it in a different way than they did last year, and hopefully in a more positive way.
This is Mark from Medford. Mark, what's up?
Hey, what's up, guys? A pleasure to be on with Mr. Milbury there.
Yes.
Mike, the one thing I need to stress here, since the departure of Krejci and Bergeron, this team has been absolutely atrocious in the face-off circle, especially in the defensive zone with important face-offs. They need to improve on that tremendously.
Yeah.
Well, those were pretty good face-off guys that you're talking about, particularly Bergeron. But I mean, Coyle can be effective. The other guys have to get down and dirty. I know that it's not strictly skill when it comes to face-off wins. You got to get down, you got to get heavy, you got to get strong, you got to get determined, you got to want it. It's really a determining factor in the outcome of the face-off, is to make sure that you're in the right position and you're strong on your stick, and you're determined that this is just not another face-off. This is something that could determine the outcome of the game. It's an interesting little aspect to the game that sometimes people don't study enough, but when you get a guy like Bergeron who can win in critical moments, when 10 seconds are left on the clock and you got a face-off in your defensive zone, then you realize just how important it is.
All right, Mike. Well, I hope you have gas for the snowblower.
Gas for the snowblower? No, I don't have any gas. I have guys that come and take it away. And when I want to know what the weather is, I just look out the window.
All right, Mike Milbury. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you as always.
See ya.